Hey everyone, welcome to this new moon Sidereal astrology forecast for the new moon on Sunday, January 2nd, 2022. All right, so we have a fresh new start to the lunar cycle, and it's in Sagittarius. If you're expecting me to say Capricorn just then, be sure to check out the link down below for more information. We're using the visible sky on this channel called True Sidereal Astrology, and it does change the signs from mainstream astrology. All right, so new moon in Sagittarius the Centaur. It's all about listening to that spirit for life and being guided by that spirit. So it's a great time of expanding our horizons, both mentally through things like philosophy, astrology, spirituality, but also quite literally adventure, maybe a bit of that adventurousness and opening our horizons mentally and literally is fantastic with this new moon. Now, the new moon is all in all supportive. We do have a trine with Uranus, so there is this individual self-expression coming through, that unorthodoxy, wanting change, a great new moon for mixing things up, inducing some change, letting out that individual self. And a square up to Chiron, so good to challenge ourselves towards anything that involves facing wounds, facing fears. That can end up being very healing and therapeutic as a part of this. All right, so those are the main aspects. We also do have some semi-sextiles with Mars and Saturn. Nothing major, but I wanted to mention those as well. We'll talk about, so bring in some of that action energy with Mars and bring in some of that patient energy with Saturn is also great. All right, so let's go and take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here is the chart for this new moon. Let me just double check, make sure we are recording. Yep. Here's the chart for the new moon, and so it's going to be happening on Sunday, January 2nd, 2022. And it's going to be about midday for those in the Americas, so about 15:28 Eastern time of the Americas, if you do want to make that calculation for wherever you are in the world. But for all intents and purposes, we are going to be feeling this energy on the days surrounding Sunday. And of course, as you can see here, we're using the uneven constellations, so very different from mainstream astrology. Mainstream is saying that the new moon is in Capricorn, but if you do look up at the visible sky, you will see it right in the middle of Sagittarius. So if you are new to this form of astrology, definitely check out the link down below for more information. All right, so let's see. A new moon is a new beginning to the lunar cycle and a fresh new start. The previous lunar cycle was very deep and transformative, which was an eclipse cycle we had back in December and late November. And that was very much dealing with with Scorpio and Ophiuchus energy, so deeper energy there. So it's definitely this now more post-transformative energy, post-transformed energy, let's say, of Sagittarius, the butterfly out of the cocoon of Scorpio and Ophiuchus, let's say. But Sagittarius is the centaur, and so it is the half horse, half human, which is about being guided by the bottom half, first of all, which is about our spirit, the instincts. You know, Sagittarius is a fire sign, so it's about trusting our instincts, being guided by our fire, being guided by our spirit, right? And then the top half being the human, which is the more spiritual component, which is directing it, right? Because if it's just the horse, then we're just kind of, wandering around. But the human directs it, right? And that's the aiming of the bow and arrow that the centaur is symbolically doing here. So having purpose and direction, guiding the spirit, guiding the inspiration, guiding that fire towards a purpose, towards something usually more higher, something more meaningful, and so it rules life path, it rules life purpose, it rules philosophy, guiding that spirit towards understanding life and gaining higher knowledge and higher wisdom. So all in all, it's a great time to listen to that spirit, listen to that adventurousness, and expand both our mental and literal horizons during this new moon. And any intentions around this are fantastic. Some mental horizons would be things like spirituality, philosophy, discussing, connecting in this realm that deals with the higher, more abstract stuff. But also the adventurousness, right, of the literal expansion, the opening our horizons quite literally is also great. So in this way, we develop more of this energy collectively. And anything around this expanding of our horizons is fantastic. Now, the new moon is going to be trining up to Uranus, who's retrograde in Aries. So there is this also very similar energy where Uranus comes together with Sagittarius is that of, in this sense, listening to our excitement. Uranus is all about listening to our excitement. It's very much the higher self, or the true self, coming through, that wants to live spontaneously, do things more, based on that excitement, and let out more of that individual self-expression. So it's a very supportive new moon for this. Any intentions around this, letting out that individual self, that true self, unique, unorthodox, weird, different side of ourself, letting that, come out, and that individuality there with Aries. But also, fundamentally, our visions, those excitements and our visions for the future, especially because Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius, is in Aquarius, and Aquarius is Uranus's sign. So we have a lot of this confirmation of Uranus and Aquarius, these energies about individual self-expression and about future vision, really being accentuated with this new lunar cycle. So with Jupiter here, it's showing where we can be expanding our horizons, and in Aquarius, it's about the future. So our own future visions is great, our own future aspirations. We could even be hopeful or open-minded about some of these things, maybe even some opportunities for some of us who are having Jupiter activate our chart. Could see opportunities come through regarding these future visions this lunar month. But also, collectively, this is all about, Sagittarius is all about perception. And so it's always this opportunity to view things from a different lens, right? To expand our perception, to expand our horizons, right? But expand our perception about life and our view of life. And with Jupiter and Aquarius, specifically about the future. And so this could be the collective future, maybe the global future, right? So a good time of thinking big there, expanding, changing perception, paying attention to our beliefs and perception about anything in life, but even, especially these Aquarian things, because our beliefs are very powerful. Our perception plays a huge role in what we experience, and Sagittarius is always this new step in the right direction where we're evolving personally and collectively towards, being aware of this very powerful energy of the human experience, and that of perception, right? So a great time of doing this, expanding our perception about the future, either personally or collectively, is great. And again, very supportive, especially with Uranus trining this new moon. Now, there is a square up to Chiron. It is on the minor side, I would say, because Chiron is a comet. It doesn't play a huge role in these events. But nonetheless, it's a great new moon for challenging ourselves to face any fears, to do things in the face of any wounds. And this can be very healing, very therapeutic. So, of course, we can set some intentions towards healing with the square. I think that's great. But really just anything in life that you feel like is uncomfortable, but, is facing a fear, is moving into a wound. It's really embracing and accepting, breathing in, embracing this fear. And then in that way, reclaiming our power and healing, right? And rejuvenating and transforming, right? Anything on that context I think is great. Could be challenging to do with the square, but it's, again, we want to challenge ourselves to do so. And the square is all about taking the action necessary to do that. And with Chiron and Pisces, just remembering that, of course, there is so much outside of our control. And so it's so important to be receptive to the divine process of life, to the things outside of our control, let go of what's outside of our control. And in this way, it can be very healing. Help us, face those wounds. And of course, anything psychologically or deeper in the unconscious, if this is intentional for you, spiritual work, psychological work involving healing has been great, and is a great way of working with this new moon with the square to Chiron there. All right, so those are the most important aspects, the trine and the square. We do, of course, have that Jupiter and Aquarius I just mentioned. And I normally don't talk about these, but it is interesting that we have two of them. So we have a new moon right in between Mars and Saturn. And so this is forming what is called the semi-sextile aspect, which means that these signs are almost equidistant from each other relative to the new moon. And the energies are just very different. And so it's a challenge to integrate them, but I think it's important to integrate them. And so one is Mars in Scorpio, who's making his way into healing Ophiuchus. And so just, I would say as a reminder, the previous lunar cycle, like I said, was very deep, very transformative with the eclipses and all this. And so, embracing, reconnecting with what we experienced last lunar month, of reclaiming our power, of truth, getting to the core of things, excavating deep stuff, bringing it to the surface. And all this can be very motivating, very driving. And so there is this opportunity to integrate this, the deeper side to our free-spirited experiences, and the drive and intention towards those as well. Now, the sextile to Saturn is the more disciplined energy, especially in Capricorn. And so remembering too that even though this new moon is about our spirit and opportunities perhaps, or things we're open-minded about, it's great to do that at least. Saturn reminds us that things take time, things take patience and perseverance. And so I think remembering to integrate that more grounded, earthy, long-term element to all of this is also going to be helpful during this new moon. All right, everyone, but that is the new moon in a nutshell. Most importantly is a fresh new start to the lunar cycle, allowing the energies to die down as we approach the new moon. It's the fresh, clean slate, the first new moon of the solar year after the solstice. And so just building some momentum slowly but surely. Once we get to the weekend, week after this new moon, will be the more action-oriented phase. We're really grounding and implementing this stuff. So early on, just listening, see what is arising. It's likely in the context of Sagittarius, how we can reconnect with or further develop our free-spirited side, our open-minded side, and listen to that spirit for life and be guided by that with purpose, with direction. Using that Uranus energy of individual self-expression, listening to that excitement, right? That individual self, that true self coming through, inducing some change, challenging our own or the collective status quo in constructive ways can be very supportive. Facing wounds to heal, to empower ourselves, to transform. And and a lot of this being about, I think, the future visions, right? Our own personal or collective visions, expanding those perceptions, and in this way manifesting, what we see for the future, and perhaps even joining up with others that we share a vision about regarding this future as well. All right, so everyone have a fantastic new moon. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click the like button if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're not yet signed up for MTZ Insiders, it is a newsletter where you do get these videos released first before YouTube, and extra content not normally released on YouTube. So do check that out if you haven't already. But have a great new moon, everyone. And I'll see you all next time for the next astrology forecast. Take care.